Welcome back to the Inner Circle Show. In today's episode, we have a Palantir downgrade and a new Palantir partnership. But before we get into all of that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn your notifications on so you do not miss an upload Monday through Friday. So first up, we have a downgrade. We can't really escape a single week without getting either an upgrade or a downgrade. And actually, I don't think we've had a downgrade in terms of Palantir for quite a while now. So, maybe this is refreshing. But this is coming from a company called Mizuho. Their analyst has downgraded Palantir from a neutral to an underperform. But actually, the analyst increased the price target from $21 a share to $22 a share. But even so, $22 a share is still about a 22% decrease from the current price, obviously depending on when you're watching this video and what the current stock price of Palantir is. So actually, this is a negative feeling towards the stock that this analyst is having. So why did this analyst do this downgrade? Well, just quickly before we talk about that, I want to say that downgrades and upgrades from different analysts sometimes are not very worth looking at, in my opinion. You read them, they don't really make an awful lot of sense. They flip-flop a lot. There's some impact in the stock in the short term. That's not always good because then you have to question, well, is it justified that they're actually saying these things and then the stock's dropping 7%? Or, is it justified that they're saying these things and then the stock goes up by 10%? These are the questions that you have to ask. However, the reason that I like to look at them and discuss them is because I think it's really important to try and always keep your mind open to people that have opposing opinions. And this is the case in life in general for me, but also in the case of investing. I obviously am very bullish and very convicted on Tesla and Palantir and some other stocks as well. So I like to make sure that I'm constantly reading things from people that don't actually agree with me, whether that's an analyst downgrading a stock, whether that's an article that's come out, whatever it may be, an interview that I watch, just because I like to query my thoughts and think, do I actually need to shift my judgment here? Or is this piece of information actually not justified? And then I become even more convicted. But anyway, this downgrade was due to Palantir now having too high a valuation for it to be justifiable. But let's take a deeper look. Mizuho analysts cut their rating on Palantir stock from neutral to underperform, saying that the big data analytics software maker's rich valuation is now becoming hard to justify. Along with a downgrade call, Mizuho also adjusted its price target on Palantir from $21 a share to $22 a share. Still, the new price target implies a downside risk of about 23% compared to Monday's closing price. Analysts said Palantir has demonstrated a generally strong performance in recent quarters. However, they remained concerned about the lack of visibility into the company's business. They have been doing really well in recent quarters. And of course, we've got the next earnings coming up on, was it the 5th of August? I think it was. I spoke about this in yesterday's video. And I think they'll do very well in that earnings as well. Now, obviously, I've spoken about this before too, but there is the argument that actually Palantir's revenue should be growing at a much faster rate than it currently is. Remember though, revenue is a lagging indicator. I'm not concerned about this whatsoever. I think the growth is there and I think we are going to continue to see momentum build. And I think money is going to move from those companies that aren't producing very useful AI into companies like Palantir that absolutely are. And then on top of that, Palantir have got the government side, and at the moment, in the way that the world is, I think that that's going to be very, very in demand. There is a lot of threat happening, geopolitical threats, and Palantir is a company that can utilize data and artificial intelligence to actually combat some of those threats. And then they talk about lack of visibility into the company's business. Now, I think what they mean is, as investors, retail or institutional investors maybe, you don't always know what's happening maybe on the government side because some of these deals can't really be spoken about. They're highly confidential. We don't always get visibility. Again, that's something I've spoken about before. I don't think that you need to know every single deal to be able to judge how good a company is and what they are actually offering potential consumers and how they are changing the way that, different industries are working. I think that's what they mean by lack of visibility. It's not something that I'm concerned about whatsoever. But yeah, let's continue. They also note that some of the recent positive results have been of lower quality and express limited confidence in Palantir's ability to consistently deliver strong results. I don't really know about that some of the positive results recently have been lower quality. I disagree with that. But also we've got to remember, like with any business, it goes up and down slowly over time. It reacts to the macroeconomic situation. You're never going to have a business that's just like this because lots of factors come into play. It's always multifactorial. But what you've got to ask yourself is it steadily going up over time in the key metrics, are they still getting deals? Are big companies wanting to work with Palantir? You've only got to look as far as AIP cons and AIP bootcamps to see the answer to that. But primarily, following the material 67% rise in the shares year to date, I think it's actually more than that now, we find it increasingly difficult to justify Palantir's high multiple that, in our view, likely already discounts significant acceleration versus our consensus and expectations for 20 to 21% revenue growth, the analyst wrote. Analysts point out that the Palantir shares now trade at a 2024 and 2025 enterprise value to sales, EV to sales ratio multiple of 25 to 26 times and 21 times respectively. This represents a substantial 160% premium to the enterprise software peer group median for the next year, they highlighted. Moreover, Palantir's current near-term EV sales multiple is at peak levels as measured over the past 2 to 3 years. So a downgrade like this was always going to happen, and actually I imagine that we will see more coming out very soon. The stock has run up a lot. It's done really, really well, and you could maybe argue that based on the numbers only, based on the revenue growth and things like that, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's too expensive right now. You could argue that. But in my opinion, if you look further afield and you look at what they're actually doing, you look at the business, you don't just look at metrics, you look at the momentum, the deals that they're getting, the way that their customers are speaking about them, the things that they have to offer. You could also argue that actually if you have a long-term timeline, this is the thing, it's short-term versus long-term. If you have a long-term vision, right now at $28 a share or whatever it currently is, nearly $29 a share, this could be extremely, extremely cheap in years to come. And that's the difference. It depends if you have that in years to come mindset or you have I need to make some quick money in the next few months. And either or's fine. It just depends on your situation. But I think that's the difference as to whether or not you think that Palantir is currently way too high to justify, or actually, in the grand scheme of things, over the next 10 years, it's not that expensive. But I do think that a lot of analysts will be looking at the valuation right now, will be thinking that it's incredibly high, will be thinking that right now is a good time to take profit, and actually there may be a better and cheaper entry point to come. This makes sense. This is how analysts do things. They have to look at what's in front of them. They have to look at the numbers. They can't really judge it on what could happen, what is possible, what is likely to happen. And I believe we actually saw the same thing happen last quarter as we approached earnings as well. Now, you never really know how much a downgrade or an upgrade is actually going to affect a stock price in the short term. Sometimes they come out and, like I said, they can drop 10%. Sometimes it can go up 5%. Sometimes it doesn't really move the needle all that much. So this downgrade did have some effect on Palantir's stock, but it wasn't massive. In pre-market, it was down by about 2%, and then the markets opened. It continued dropping a little bit, and then it slowly regained throughout the day. So it didn't really seem to matter that much, and the buy-in volumes were large enough to cover this. We have also heard about another new deal. So Palantir have partnered with the US Department of State Center for Analytics and Diplomatic Technology to leverage the latest in AI, powered by Palantir's artificial intelligence platform, AIP, to transform diplomacy for generations to come. And this partnership yet again shows us that Palantir have such a critical role in advancing AI-driven solutions for these high-stake governmental operations. They have a real capacity, a real capability to deliver both impactful, real-world and useful applications of their platforms and their technology. For Palantir shareholders, this collaboration not only validates Palantir's expertise and reputation in both the artificial intelligence and data analytics space, but it also signals potential for sustained growth and increasing governmental contracts. Yet again, reinforcing long-term stability and long-term value. Wendy Anderson, who is a senior vice president at Palantir, put this on X. This is a big deal. We at Palantir are working with the State Department Center, blah, 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 and this is meaningful work at a hyper-relevant time in the world, given the geopolitical complexities. That's exactly what I'm saying. There is so much going on in the world right now that many Western countries will be wanting to work with Palantir to actually see how they can help them in their defense. Do let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and supporting this channel, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.